Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Faisal Ansari, associated with Greenwich University, Department of Social Sciences. Uh, I'm a faculty with a background of finance and economics with the support of IR. And we have all seen in the recent times that US and China has shared a tremendous breadth of economic relations, reckoned to be the strongest and most significant bilateral relations of the 21st century. US and China have already been involved in a trade war since 2018 that has resulted in tariffs from United States of over 550 billion worth of Chinese products, and China has reciprocated on $185 billion worth of US goods. So to discuss this geopolitical rivalry between the two countries, we have conducted a seminar, a webinar, in fact. The topic is shifting balance of powers, unipolar to multipolar reality. In today's session, we have with us Dr. Muhammad Ali. He is working with University of Karachi, Department of Political Science as assistant professor. He is associated with this department since last 19 years. And Dr. Saab has published 27 international and national research papers. Welcome, Dr. Muhammad Ali, to the Greenwich University webinar.
Welcome. Thank you very much for your kind words.
Very nice. The next panelist we have is Dr. Nausheen Wasi. Dr. Saab is assistant professor and director South Asian Studies at the Department of IR, University of Karachi. She is also visiting faculty in multiple universities and has also published several research papers in international and national conferences. Now, Dr. Saib was also associated with Pakistan Institute of International Affairs, Karachi. Dr. Saib, welcome to the Greenwich University webinar.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your invitation.
The third analyst, I must say, not panelist, is Mr. Ali Raza Jilani, soon to be a doctor. He is head of diplomatic affairs, Greenwich University. He's a policy analyst for democratization of state and society, and he has been associated with several interventions at the regional and global level on human rights, democratic governance, and sustainable development, while representing Pakistan at various global forums, including the high-level political forum of United Nations General Assembly and European Parliament. Thank you, Ali Jilani Sahab, for being with us. Now, session will be handed over to Ali Jilani as a moderator. Jilani Sahab, over to you.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you very much. It's a privilege having such an esteemed panel with us. Let me just contextualize before we move into how we actually build on with this particular discussion. Despite the tremendous breadth of economic and political relations that you shared between China and the US, they've had no love loss as far as the recent history is concerned. Especially COVID-19's effect on the future of dollar in the backdrop of petrodollar crises, and China's rise with its overwhelming economic might could reshape the entire political economy around the world. Moreover, the inability of US to galvanize a global support against the pandemic has resulted in a crisis of leadership at the global stage, setting the stage for an accelerated transition from unipolar to multipolar world order, which is what we're trying to focus for this particular webinar today. The multiplicity of fronts between US and China could trigger escalations across many fronts beyond trade war, involving issues like trade imbalance, tariff hikes, technological competition, and to blame game over COVID-19. Contentions over Hong Kong's economy, autonomy, and continued criticism of each other's political systems, with the Communist Party in China and the democratic governance estimations and aspirations in the US have also been, bone of contention between the two. The situation could take a wrong turn, reckoning the fact that US and China continue to enhance their arsenals, especially the US with $730 billion spending in 2019 alone as far as CIPRI statistics on defense expenditures are concerned, and subsequently China with $260 billion respectively. Now, the recent South China Sea escalations with the U.S. revised policy also has an effect on this relationship, where there's a potential, between the two contesting each other's geopolitical space. Plus, one last aspect. I mean, in the recent few weeks, the situation has raised the stakes on both sides, as the U.S. ordering Chinese consulate in Houston to shut down operations, leveling accusations of espionage, pushing its allied Europe to ban Chinese security screening firm Nuktek, and revoking the special status of Hong Kong in a clear opposition to mainland China's new national security law. This is compounded by the fact that the contentious geopolitical ambitions might unveil a rivalry far more dangerous than the Cold War itself. Now, this is the landscape for which Greenwich University deemed it absolutely imperative to have this webinar on shifting balance of power, unipolar to multipolar reality, where we would love to deliberate several aspects of this particular contention. Let me request for Dr. Muhammad Ali's initial comment on how do you see, sir, the recent escalations and the deteriorating diplomatic relations between the United States and the China? Dr. Muhammad Ali, can you hear us, sir? Dr. Noshin, I will move. I will request for your initial comment on the situation of U.S. and Chinese relationship.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Greenwich University, for inviting me to speak on such a complex issues of today's world, whereby the whole world is in crisis. You see, I would like to see it in historical context, how the politics among different nations evolve over the period of time. If we go by the realist paradigm, we see that the enhanced capabilities of one state is specifically of the state that is of significant importance to the world in terms of its size, its population, its political clout in the region. The enhanced power of such a state creates a natural sense of insecurity among the other states in the region and at the global political level. And this time it was the contention between the so-called unilateral power and the China, that is the second largest economy, and present the indicators to supersede United States in the coming uh, decades, if not to say the years that United States is trying to stop or contain or deter to a greater extent. So you see, after um, I would not say that after the Cold War, United States emerged as the sole superpower. At that time too, there was this possibility that world is moving from bipolarity to multipolarity. But 2001 incidents where WTC were attacked and the war on terror started, United States emerged as the sole superpower in the region. There was no other country to contain its power, and it was free to have its operation the way it liked to in the world. That created insecurity at a larger scale. World was never witnessed the stable politics that we witnessed during the bipolarity in the Cold War period. So you see, and then in 90s, China started emerging as the strongest economy in the world. Throughout the 90s, Chinese economic growth was very impressive. It was, you see, at times in double digit. It was average 11% GDP growth rate. And even when the world witnessed the decline, China's decline was not that stark. COVID, obviously, this COVID-19 changed the situation, but after the first quarter, China started making improvements. So you see, this kind of thing that since United States was to maintain its supremacy in the world, it ultimately felt threatened by the rise of China. So it started taking policies that were to contain the China's role in the world. And at the same time, different countries were emerging on the power arena, but they were not showing sufficient strength to counter the unilateral power. And if we go by the indications, if we go by the statistics, China is still far behind in terms of economic might, in terms of technology might, in terms of military capabilities. But you see, its rapid increase in terms of economic growth suggests that China is on that path. So in 2018, initially, States was not that vocal to contain the China's role in the world. But after 2018, when Trump administration spelled out its policy to contain China, and that has three features. First was the trade war that you mentioned. The second was the technological blockade, and the third was the ideological attack on China. So you see, United
Right.
States initially, through the passive policy, tried to contain, and then it came out with the open policy of containment of China. And all the other developments that simultaneously are taking place between China and the United States are in that direction, are in that loop. So you see, I view this situation from the realist perspective, that how the established superpower is trying to sustain its position and contain the power of the other state. And every issue that we'll be talking about in the next 40-45 minutes will be covering that direction. So that is one aspect. And then I do not think, but still, let me not end my initial remarks on the very pessimist note. There is one assumption in the realist politics that once the uh, existing power is trying to contain the power of the emerging power of the other state, the ultimate result is war. And that is known as the Thucydides trap. But I do not think there are certain other developments taking place that suggest that China and United States in a short run will not engage in war. First of all, it is because of the COVID-19 impact on the world politics and economy. United States is suffering huge losses, and it will not open up new front in case of the trade war that we saw in the past. This is one feature. Secondly, United States imposition of tariff on Chinese good didn't impact on Chinese economy much. The way United States speculated. And it is because of the factor that Chinese economy is a very controlled economy, and it only impacted certain industrial sector of the Chinese market. So you see, China has this potential and capacity to come to balance the impact of the United States policies. This is one very important reason. And then China, in terms of military capabilities, cannot afford to resolve the conflicts through active war policy, direct active war policy. So there would be skirmishes, there would be tensions that we saw in case of South China Sea. We often see it in the India, in United States Indo-Pacific strategy, and at so many other places. But I do not think that in a shorter run, United States and China will engage in a kind of rivalry that the world is expecting or has been expecting since 2018.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive initial comment. I'll come back to you, especially focusing on Thucydides trap, plus the ideological contention between the two, especially in terms of their modes of governance. Now, I'd like to request Dr. Muhammad Ali for your initial comments, sir.
Thank you very much for your kind words. First of all, I congratulate to Greenwich University, you or your team for this organized this webinar. Especially during this pandemic era, where all the research work and academic work has been stuck, and it is hoped that this webinar will break the ice and hope everything will be fine. Now come to our one points. We will start your question that about the we will start that this thing that like the William Kelly that said that in the foreign policy is a quite a game There's a no permanent enemy, no permanent friend, except with national interest. Actually, it's a game of the interest. It's a game of when we talk about U.S. And China relationship. We have seen that the U.S. and China has we go to background. They have a good relationship initial period. This we will cancel after the, but it has been changes after the 1949. Then the relationship has been changed from 1949 then 71. The up and down, but especially, but after the night. The This situation has been worse during this session after the Donald Trump issue. There's a lot of reason which has been already discussed by the Dr. Nashin as well. So it is my point of view. Whatever you want to say. Actually, these are I have missed your question. Kindly, you will repeat your question.
Yeah, I just requested for your initial comment, and then we'll move into the round of questions. So I just required your initial comment on the entire situation, sir.
Uh, Definitely, the situation is worse when talk about the Sino-American relationship with that, but it's not at that worse whatever we have to claim that it will be. But it is a say that it would be a new Cold War in the term of the trade
Right,
war or another. But it's not. We cannot say that there would be any hot war or anything else. This is my comments. This.
right. Thank you very much. Now I'll move to Faisal Ansari for your initial comment, please.
Thank you, Ali. To begin with, as Dr. Saba has very comprehensively stated about it, and Dr. Ali has also highlighted it, I would just give it some economic dimension as well. If you look at the 2020 figures, February 2020 figures of US Treasury bills, then we become aware that 15.4% of the US foreign debt is owned by China, which is significantly high. And if you look at the trade figures, then we must be aware that uh, US exports to China in 2019 were around 106 million US dollars, where imports were 451 million dollars. This led to the trade deficit of 345 million dollars at the end of United States. So when we see that and we look at the greater picture where US has imposed tariffs on China, this has negatively impacted US industry itself, because there are multiple factors. We look at just three main factors, then we can see that number one, if we impose tariffs, then obviously other country retaliate with the tariffs as well. So what it does in the long run, that our imports, number one, becomes costlier. Number two, our exports becomes at the lower comes at the lower end, and number three, uh, when we protect our industry from with the help of tariffs, it negatively impacts the production at our end as well. So this tariff and trade war is leading to further deepening the US foreign trade deficit. This is my initial talk to it.
Thank you, Faisal. I'll come back to you specifically focusing on the trade war and the tariffs bit and how it's impacting the US itself in particular. I'll move to Dr. Noshin now. Uh, how do you see these contentious geopolitical ambitions between the two affecting the blocs around the world? Speak to us about Thucydides' trap as well, and specifically this propaganda war in terms of the ideological considerations vis-a-vis modes of governance in the two countries, man.
Yes, thank you. Already a new kind of alliance building is taking place, and it has negative connotations for the sub-regions in the world. If I'll be focusing on South Asia, that is of significance for us first. Let's see, India is now in the United States bloc. China, Pakistan pushed more towards China. China is having a great policy of integration, the kind of integration that the world has never seen through infrastructure development. You see, in the regions. Its OBOR project, One Belt, One Road, which is commonly now known as Belt and Road Initiative, has been very ambitious. A Chinese program to connect to the world economies and to ensure the supply lines for China and to ensure the energy supply to China. And since 2013, when China announced this program, you see, world's focus has shifted towards the Chinese policies to play an active role in the world politics. And this was necessarily this project was to meet Chinese economic and commercial needs in the world. And you see, throughout the history, we have seen that whichever power controls the trade routes in the world, energy supply lines in the world, they maintain their supremacy and hegemony in the world politics. So that is one important factor that we have seen. That has shifted balance in the regions. So you see, United States chose India to contain Chinese influence in the world and in the subcontinent. India, being the neighbor of China, was for understandable reason was the right choice for the United States. Pakistan for long had been in Chinese camp since 60s, and it was the India factor that brought Pakistan and China together initially. Then there were certain other factors. Pakistan's strategic needs brought Pakistan closer towards China, and that basically made the regional politics more divisive, because India and Pakistan need to resolve their conflicts, but they have not come along one another because of the global politics. So ultimately, on South Asia, it negatively impacted this conflict. Then in the Middle East politics, ultimately, we saw the different play game, because you see, Russia was involved in the Middle Eastern politics actively, more active than China. Russia, in order to contain the United States influence, because at times Russia and United States were against one another, still they are, though it's not very active. So Russia chose to join China this time. And during the Cold War period, China and Russia were not in one platform. So in the extended region, like in Middle East, like in Caribbean, in the Yemen war case, in other cases, we saw an alignment between Russia and China. So you see, there are some strategic factors where China lag behind, but then it collaborates with Russia, and that aggravates the situation. So a kind of Cold War between United States and China that I talked about earlier has negatively impacted on the world politics. Obviously, when major powers are not in cooperation with one another, sub-region system get reflection from the system at a larger scale. So that is the case. We have witnessed the world which is divided on different lines. Then ideological pinning is used, but I do not think the world divided in left and right politics the way it was divided during the Cold War period. Many states are on the capitalist are with the capitalist bloc and following the same policies. In fact, there is no ideological divide, the kind of the division we used to witness initially. Every state is after its interests, and they make alliances accordingly. Even China is using a mixed economic model. So you see, and we saw this resurgence of democratic socialist movement, but that is also within the capitalist framework. So you see, that ideological divide is just to use the sentiment of the population when it suits the power game to either state. So that kind of divide is not there. Secondly, we have been witnessing a huge leadership crisis in the world. You see, United States during this pandemic time has failed to lead these states towards a collaborative policies that we saw in 2002 when SARS broke out. China came out as a savior, but again, Chinese policies are not trusted in the a United States bloc. Europe is itself in transition because of so many factors. It is in problem. Like Brexit has raised certain question marks on European Union playing an effective role in the world politics. Germany is taking the individual lines, and you see, so this leadership crisis, and in different cases also, we do not see a leadership coming out with the vision to to support stability in the world politics. That has been a very important case. So insecurity is there, distrust vis-a-vis the other policies is there, and I think every country, and I'm talking in terms of major powers or the important power. You see, be it India, Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, East Asian bloc, every country is trying to make most out of the situation. That has been the case of anarchy. You see, when it says anarchy is what a state makes out of it. So you see, in the absence of global leadership, every country is playing its part the way that benefits it the most. It's a transition. There are more questions than answers. And I do not see pandemic changing the world politics in a way that suits the interests of the uh, population at large at the global level, that interests the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, that addresses the climate change problem in the world, that poses the real security threats. Instead, we see states involved in the political game. That I was talking about, the Thucydides trap. Basically, that is the security vis-a-vis the insecurity. You are secure if you keep the other states insecure. And it's still, you see, negotiations. Faisal just talked about the trade war between United States and China. He must be focusing on the negotiations, and the first round of negotiations have been successful between United States and China. This reflect their, you see, realization that at this moment, given the economic indicators, given the political problems, given the impact of the lockdown, they cannot go for active open rivalry. So there has to be some meeting point, and I hope that the mature leadership emerge in the world. But in the age of populist politics, it is not a near picture.
All right, thank you very much again. Although I posed almost like three questions for you respectively, but thank you very much for comprehensively responding to each
I
perspective.
would be happy to answer that.
So, as far as you see the ideological contention between the U.S. and Chinese, despite the fact that Donald Trump has this gift of unpredictability, which I'll come back to you in my next round of questions. Vis-a-vis the crises of global leadership, where U.S. has left a vacuum recently on quite a few issues where its position has been different in the past. Uh, Now, as far as the ideological contentions, as far as the modes of governance is concerned, you also see that, I mean, despite Trump representing far right, ultra fascist aspirations, the US propaganda machine would somehow pin down on the Communist Party regime in the Chinese and label it as an authoritarian mode of governance, and then, subsequently link it's capitalism with that of state-regulated ambitions, what we saw in Huawei's case and others also. So let me come back to you on the crisis of leadership again later in my next round of questions. Moving to Dr. Muhammad Ali, sir, how do you see the contention between Chinese and the U.S. geopolitical ambitions having its impact on different regions around the world, especially on South Asia?
Thank you. It's a very important question to you. The current scenario, we have seen that the situation has been worse, and it's also claimed that it's also called the new Cold War. As you know that America and China has changed their policy, and basically before Trump, the situation was very positive. But as you already said, that Trump is unpredictable, and these this tension is start when is a bilateral two time when America has a closed consulate general, their embassies in different is also part of, but the China is also responsible for this one because there's a 3 to 4 factor which has been decreasing this level, and this relationship has been very come to a very low level since after the 1971, like Hong Kong issues, like other we have to see that the COVID-19 conspiracy theories, these are the different. Now the situation is that the graph of their relationship has been very low. It has been since 1971, or even and your next topic is that what will the impact on the geo region? Definitely, it will be also impacted because of both are the great power, but mostly it will also impact on the global scenario in the China in the Asia as well as the Far East Asia. You concerned is that there's also impact on their relationship and trade. When talk about the South Asia, Dr. Nasheen has also discussed all the, but also it's an impact of relationship between the Pakistan and China relationship. Definitely, it's maybe it will now the America will also use the term use this term on the it's also impact on CPEC as well. They will consider that they will push the Pakistan don't work on the CPEC as well. So this is the in my opinion that it not only the South Asia but also impact on the Middle East as well. So this is my consideration is that one that this is because of both are the superpower, both are the very they play very important role, and their alliance will also their alliance will be confused which will they have to given the part of the America. But definitely this conflict, this tense situation, even India will utilize India will try to gain the sympathy of the America, and because in the foreign policy and that Pakistan will support to the China as well. This is my comments in this scenario.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad Ali. I'll move to Faisal now. Faisal Ansari, requesting your comment, specifically focusing on the trade war between the US and the Chinese. Also, elucidate some aspects of the recent tariff war between the two componentially.
Thank you, Ali. To begin with, I must say that the world at present, the world's largest exporter is China, which is around 2.09 trillion US dollars, and China's greatest partner in trade is United States, which is contributing around
Hmm.
481 billion US dollars of its trade. So
Hmm.
it is all about how they go hand in hand, as Dr. Noshin has pointed out, how quickly they come into the sanity, the both sides, and will join hands towards mutual cooperation and growth. Because the cooperation of the growth of China is and United States are both linked together. However, as China is taking over the position of United States in the world, including the political side and the trade side, because previously China was now the China is the largest exporter in the world and the trading nation in the world, whereas this position was with the United States for several years. So ultimately, US being used to be the big brother in the world, whereas now since after this populist movement and since after Mr. Trump, it has not been able to reflect its earlier position and strength in the world politics, as we have seen the COVID as well. So this, if you look at the trade side as well, then the current account, balance. The three countries that have the largest current account positive balance in the world. The first one is Germany, the next one is Japan, and third one is China. So if we look at it, then we must be aware that if this trade war will continue, this will, as I have also said earlier, that this will negatively impact US in the shorter run and ultimately China in the longer run. And if we look at the India-China, geopolitical, South China Sea conditions, where, as Dr. Noshin and Dr. Ali has mentioned, and you also have mentioned that India is now working from the perspective of United States, and the proxy war between China and India is run through uh, India, Japan, Australia, and Philippines in the South China Sea region. So I must say that if this current situation of trade war is ultimately and could ultimately lead towards full-fledged war, in my opinion, because this is usually the case that trade deficits, trade wars, current account negative balances leads towards full-fledged war. This has happened, the greatest depression in the world in 1920s also led to the war. So apparently, I think that if it not be controlled in next couple of years, it could lead to a full-fledged war.
Right. Thank you, Faisal, for the comment. Dr. Noshin, I'll move to you now. We spoke about the unpredictability of Mr. Donald Trump, the kind of tweets and everything that we receive every other night. How do you see has it affected the global leadership role of the United States in particular? Not just in terms of Chinese relations, but generally overall as well. Because even this particular trade war, Faisal also mentioned about this, but there's also a other side of the coin to this. On the underside, you also see that most of the multinational corporations of the United States, I mean the tycoons included, they have their production units based in China. Now that, I mean, it's not just going to be about tariffs. It's not just going to be about your exports that will be affected, but mainly the production units. If they are affected, if the Chinese to decide to go full blown on this, it could actually be counterproductive as far as the U.S. is concerned. And we've seen several precedents of this sort where Trump administration has taken a stance, including the issue of climate change, which it continues to persist even today. So how do you see this unpredictability element, and how is it affecting the United States' image as a global leader overall with Trump, in the White House?
Beyond doubt, it has impacted negatively on the United States' image and role as the global leader. And you see, Mr. Trump has never been taken seriously by the world leaders and the countries in different parts of the world. See the case of his offer of mediation between India and Pakistan, then the way he tried to forge relations with the Saudi prince.
Mm,
Then what he talked about the COVID virus. So you see,
right.
he continuously said it is the Chinese virus made in the laboratories in Wuhan. So you see,
Yeah.
Trump has never been taken seriously by the global leaders. And in times of crisis, when United States, being the sole superpower state, needed to take the global leadership role, Mr. Trump chose to opt out of different mechanisms. He left
Mm,
WHO in the times
yeah.
when it has never been, you see, any other leader capable of understanding the situation could not have done this. But I fail to understand, you see, that countries' policies are not run on the personal aspirations. All right, I
Mm,
understand that United States president is the most powerful um, uh, 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 seat in the world in terms of the powers that United States president enjoys. But at the same
right.
time, some mature policies have to come from different quarters, and that we have seen in terms of backdoor diplomacy. So that is
Mm,
first. My first take on the set of questions that you raise. Obviously,
right.
Trump presidency has caused the United States decline fast.
Mm,
That is the case. Otherwise, you see, rise and fall is the rule of the game in international politics. Every
right.
major power has seen the slide road. but Mr. Trump has hastened the process, has fastened to the process. Secondly, the second important thing that I would like to talk about, that you talked about the different uh, multinational corporations, uh, with reference to multinational corporations in the world. You see, one important thing is that for quite some time we have been witnessing that multinational corporations have poses some limitations on the state ability to work and state ability to
Absolutely.
take the decisions during the time of crisis, when the
Mm,
states really need to intervene in order to address the plight of the people in the countries. So I see multinational corporations that might be through the backdoor diplomacy, but they will again play their part and will force state policies to be in the direction that do not harm their interests in the longer run. And this is going to be the new um, stage. And I think, being the traditional person, perhaps I think that states need to take this decision making power from multinational corporation to extent whereby the people, their citizens do not suffer. So you see, I was reading in the poster as well that many people think that it will affect the Chinese role as the business friendly state. I do not think so. I think in the longer run, there will have to be a mechanism
mm,
whereby a state will come up with the policies that support the economic growth. And it is in their interest, as Faisal rightly pointed out, that it is in the interest of the United States, it is in the interest of China. You see, economic is the bloodline of
mm.
every major policy in the world, and countries
Right.
are conscious to have that.
Mm. Right. Thank you very much for the comment. Let me also build up on how the Chinese narrative could actually get a lift at the international stage. Now, you spoke about the multinational corporations limiting state policy space in terms of enacting regulations, demanding safety regulations or better taxation. Now we have this conundrum of neoliberal development framework around the world. I often tend to exemplify this, across different sessions. For instance, there's this instrument which is called official development assistance, through which the developed countries in the world finance those who are developing countries. In 2014, you had the largest amount of finances moved from global north to global south, which was $134 billion. In the same year, multinational corporations of the developed world extracted about $2.1 trillion from the poorest developing countries in the world through tax mispricing, trade mispricing, tax evasions, and several other instruments, including the investor state dispute settlement, which basically restrict state policy space in terms of enacting stronger regulations. Now, that neoliberal corporatocracy issue is something that the progressive and civil society elements have also been pronouncing in their mandates, and they have been opposing it, which could give a lift to the Chinese narrative, provided they move for improved safety and regulation standards on multinational corporations of the United States, in particular operating in China,
True.
which could, of course, it could severely dent the US's own mandate, and Wall Street in particular, where you see the deep state forging all these policies forward. So that of course is there, and thank you for actually highlighting that aspect.
That
Dr. Muhammad Ali, now I'll move to you. Uh, how do you see the Hambantota port issue that we saw, the tightening grip on Vietnam, Hong Kong's autonomy issue? How is it playing out? The image of China, especially as projected by the propaganda machine of the United States and its allies around the world.
Thank you. I will add a few words. Your last previous question, like the global leadership. It is
Right.
the China. What need the leadership? No? Leadership need the acceptance to the others, tolerance. But the
Right.
America has failed all these elements because it is not the presently Donald Trump is not ready to accept other person. It's a good leadership is the quality of the good leadership. Now, and
Right.
America is a fail to this show that the acceptance, trust, tolerance to other, and it's a fail. Like for that one, and the downfall of America is not a new. It's a start from 9/11. Then and you see that America has shifted their policy from to regional, international to regional. Like when Donald Trump comes into after election, he said the first America. Initially, he stated that America will deal all the international scenario. Now America has contained himself as a nationalist politics. So that's why,
Hmm.
and that's why the China, as earlier had said that it will fill this gap, and China says that China is ready to lead the world leadership. Na? So it's ready for that one. So I add the few words of your last question about the global leadership. Now NGC, that China has now withdraw their policy of the isolation. Now it's a start their policy of the participation and maximum participation in the world politics. And it is supposed to fill that gap which is missing by the America. So this is my adding point to this one. And now come to your question about the Taiwan. And as you know that South Forest Asia and ASEAN region is a very important for the Chinese perspective, and especially one China policy, Taiwan issue, and the other thing. So China will never compromise on this issue. That's why the China has China is a very actively role with this thing, and it will not ready. It's not ready that America will interfere their matter, because its claim is a Taiwan issue and South China issue. It's a claim is a sovereignty, and China has several times said that the South China Sea is it there for the it is part of the initial foreign policy and non-negotiable documents. So China will
Hmm.
not come. So this is my point that if we, why this region is important for China, because of that to contain the Japan as well. Because it is a regional geostrategic problem. A geostrategic location is that one. So in my opinion, that the China is a growing role. China is a more emphasized on the South Asia or sorry Southeast Asia region. So it's a very important strategic location for that one. China will never ever compromise on especially on Taiwan issue. Because he say the one China policy, he will say that the Taiwan is a part one, and it is the one of the main bone of contention between the US and China, because America always used the Taiwan issue blackmail to the China. So, but America says America, and even you see that the initial when Donald Trump comes, he said that he will respect the one China policy. But after in the recent 2020 year, America has withdrawn his policy, one China policy, and is a make a good relation to the Taiwan. And you know that Taiwan is as sensitive as Kashmir is sensitive for Pakistan, and Taiwan is
Hmm.
as sensitive for the China as well. So this is my
Right. There's a nationalist element to it, of
Ali,
course. Yeah.
Ali,
G.
may I intervene here for a
Sure.
minute?
Sure.
You see, you talked about this Hong Kong issue as well. And
Hmm.
last year there were protests in Hong Kong. Those protests were anti-China. They were pro-democratic. When
Right.
China enforced this new security law in Hong Kong, it is because China doesn't want that situation to emerge again. And linked with the ideological connotation that you just talked about earlier,
Right.
United States exploited that issue. Secondly, you see this China's one state two system policies is not recognized now by the United States because this new
Right.
security law and China's that policy. That means that whatever the tariff were imposed on Chinese goods, in case of Hong Kong, that was not the case. Now Trump
Yeah.
said that the same laws will be applied on Hong Kong as well. So you see, there are certain tricky issues that are emerging out of that situation. China is trying to handle the domestic situation as well, and you see, Chinese policies, domestic policies have been very controlled policies.
Right.
When United States is countering China on all fronts, it uses domestic front as an important scapegoat to further its policies in the region. And this debt trap policy is also another case in terms of the port in Sri Lanka. And now China has acquired that port on lease for 99 years. And United States is using that as an example to show the world that look, do not come into collaboration with China because China is following the policies to take over the territory of the other states. So that is being used, that is part of Chinese containment policies, US containment policies.
It's strange, you see these narratives of these moralizing narratives,
More
especially. Yeah, you see, because I mean, we tend to understand as students of political sciences that morality takes a backseat in the affairs of the statecraft, right? Similar is the case for the Suez Canal. You see, the speculations around that.
Mhm.
Plus, they've also imposed like 90-day visa restrictions on officials who were responsible for the Hong Kong's new national security law. I mean, the escalations are right there. I'll move to Dr. Muhammad Ali. Dr. Nausheen feels that there's very little scope of a full-blown war, especially involving the military options on table between the two countries, while Faisal feels otherwise. What do you feel, sir?
No, same. I do agree with both of them that the full-fledged war is not possible because there is a globalization age, and the economic interest is the first one. Maybe there
Right,
what you talk of when the full-fledged war was there. There's a if there is geographical problem is there. You
right,
see that there's a no boundary clash between the China and America. There's
mm,
a no other person. It doesn't mean that America and China are the enemy to each other. They have a lot of cooperation in the past as well. Like in 1979, they have also supporting to each other in the Afghanistan. They have the also trade. They have the also trade interest as well. There's a lot of area of cooperation to each other now. So he
right,
said that the footage world is a not a ideological problem. Ideological now it's become the past. It's still now the world is coming to the economic interest, and no, even America is not ready to war, especially after 9/11 incident, and American economy is not stable. And even
mm,
American foreign policy has shown that they have a very worse experience in Korean War, in Vietnam War, when China was not enough powerful. China has defeated. America could not achieve the target there in Vietnam War
right,
and Korean War. Now now is China is not that weak. China is a more powerful, and American foreign policy, American think tank is say that the war if war is there, it's not a possibility. In the other side, propaganda war, their diplomatic war, this would be continue, and it's happened. It's a cold war. It's like a cold war is there, like America has never attacked it. One thing is that the attack war will be there with a disbalance of power.
right,
One is weak, other is a tackle, other are the power. China is a not China is a enough powerful. And you see the history. America has never attacked to the powerful country. America always attacked the weak country. Like USSR, he never attacked the USSR. It's contained, it's break the USSR through the diplomatic and CIA other matter. So this is the thing, and China understand this thing. Even the China side is all not ready. China is also been seen a war when China is also not ready for the war because he want to be a great. He want to economic peace. He want to be economic resources. It's all focused on their one pet, one port, CPAC, other things. So this is the peace economic problem will compare to each other to not go to the war and get this thing. And this is not situation India and Pakistan, where is a Kashmir problem and there is geographical and ideological problem. India, when talk about China and America, there's only one problem you see, that is the supremacy of problem, egoistic problem, and the personality clash to each other, and especially from the American side. Maybe, and this is the all when I talk about this situation that the America do, maybe it would be the gap of the election which coming into the presidential election. Let's see what would be to happen in after that, because in foreign policy we cannot predict. But I hope if after that, it should be the game of the election for the American side. So I support Faisal and Dr. Nashin as you, that the full-fledged war, military clash would be not possible in near future. But everything be possible in this thing. But economic war, diplomatic war, this will be the
Right.
continue, and it's a part of the foreign policy, and it's happened. It's not a new thing for us, and especially Pakistan and other countries as well.
Right. Thank you. Now I'll move to Faisal Ansari. Let's have a balance of scale. So Trump can actually choose to outgun the Chinese in terms of this particular tariff war, given the massive trade volume that they have in the United States. The Chinese counterpunch could be enhanced safety and labor regulation standards for the multinational companies operating from the United States in China, with the massive market that it offers. Now, notwithstanding the issue of China being a business-friendly country or whatnot, how do you see, Faisal? What could be the alternative mechanisms that can actually bring the two together? Especially, you also spoke in your initial comment about the situation of COVID-19 having an effect on global political economy. Do you see that we can see a de-escalation as far as this particular trade war is concerned, and there could be economic collaboration moving forward?
I, to begin with, I must say that if you look at the Walmart, um, Walmart imports around 200 billion worth of goods from China over a
Hmm.
period of time. However, Walmart do not allow the import of peg meat from China because they believe that the quality standard and health standards are weaker at the Chinese side. So they categorically states that they do not import any meat or pig meat from China. So certainly, as you have mentioned, related to the health and other safety measures, US uh, look down upon at China in that matter. Now, as far as the trade war is concerned, we always see that capitalists gain from in any of the conditions. Like we see that in a stock exchange, the person who holds the stocks gains at the longer run. So do capitalists. So in 2018, where soybean is the China is importing soybean mainly from United States. Now companies are moving from you know let me sum up in another way, because US companies cannot export at the cheaper prices to China directly, so they are moving from United States to Vietnam, and Brazil is also has also emerged as the biggest exporter of soybean to China, at counterbalancing its operations as compared to the United States. So what I mean to say that is companies are shifting from China to other parts of Asia and Mexico, and companies are moving outside of the United States to cooperate with the exporters and importers. This is how, as we have stated earlier as well, uh, this trade war is really harmful for both of these giants, because in the longer run they will be the most biggest sufferers. As US has lost its position in the world, soon China would be, if they will continue this kind of war. Now, if you look at some trade balances, and Russia was also quoted over here. Russia is also a trade disbalance and the current account deficit in relation to China. And over a period of last 4 to 5 years, 2 to 3% of Russia's imports from China are increased, and this has also significantly increased deficit side of the economics. And as far as what Dr. Ali and Dr. Nosheen has pointed out, and you, Jani, has also pointed out, related to full-fledged war, we have seen in the South China Sea, where US is backed by Australia, is backed by Philippines and Japan to support the Indian ideology in the South China Sea and to counterbalance the China's overall mightiness in the South China Sea. Now, Japan is also one of the beneficiaries of this trade war between China and India, China and United States, because mainly China imports electronic items, aircraft, soybeans, and motor vehicles from United States. Now Japan is starting to shift this the import direction from United States to itself. So we have seen that this trade war between China and US will definitely, in the short run, as I've said earlier as well, will not lead to full-fledged war. But in the longer run, this is going to be a proxy war, as we have seen in the Cold Wars between Russia and the United States. Yes, so this could also be the case over as well. So COVID-19 was also seen as a proxy kind of a status, whereas China has recovered significantly, whereas United States is still facing the tougher times.
Right. Thank you, Faisal, for that. Now, I'd actually request for the audience, whosoever is watching us live, for your questions, if you have any, directed at the panelists, so that we can actually run those questions through and get the responses. Now, I'll actually move into requesting your final comments, especially adding a perspective to it, which is uh, how do you see this particular US Chinese contention affecting the scope of Belt and Road Initiative? Dr. Noshin, you already alluded to it in your initial remark. I'd also want to have you shed some more light on what could be the effects specifically on the CPEC side of things in Pakistan's perspective, as well as I'd also request for your final comment on the entire discussion.
Is this question directed to me? I'm sorry, there was some
Yeah,
disruption in
yeah.
between.
I mean, I would request you to shed some light on the overall situation of U.S. Chinese contention with its effects on Belt and Road Initiative and CPEC in particular. Plus, I'd also request for your final comment, please.
Right. I think, right. Ali, you see, a few days back, Chinese President Xi Jinping was asked about his priorities in the backdrop of this pandemic. And or BRI initiative and this, I will not talk about I would not link CPAC on his priorities in the Belt and Road Initiative.
Dr. Noshin, there's disruption on your end. Probably let me get back to you again with the question. Meantime, it's fixed. Let me move on to Dr. Muhammad Ali. Sir, how do you see the U.S.-Chinese contention affecting the scope of BRI generally, and then CPEC in particular in Pakistani perspective?
I think it should not impact so much impact on both one, but it's a little impact this one because they will pressurize America. Is America will pressurize Pakistan to not work on the CPEC as well. So, but it will also impact on the CPEC a little bit, but not as much in my opinion that it will impact on the CPEC because that is hello.
Right.
Yes, we can hear you, Doctor.
We can hear you, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, so there's a lot of problem. So yes, the CPEC overall situation, maybe it's happened. It will be continue, and maybe, and in my opinion, it will be continue the American election. But after that, it will be normalized, because I have already seen that on the CPEC issue, it will be remain it will be also a problem for, but maybe it will be little bit problem for Pakistan, but not on China as well. These things and America. And my opinion that the America CPEC is not as sensitive for America. It's only America pressurized because of the Indian pressure. So this is the overall
Right.
this is, and overall that the situation will be better after this election. It's maybe from the American side came this thing. And my last comment is that about this webinar. It's I think I said very earlier. It was a very fruitful for us, for other person, and especially these covered areas. And thank you very much for your for this organization, this for organize this webinar as well.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Dr. Noshin, I'd move to you. How do you see the effect of this particular contention between the global titans on Belt and Road Initiative? And also requesting your final comment, please. Faisal, can we have your take on the Clash of Titans affecting Belt and Road Initiative, meantime, as well as your final comment?
Thank you, Ali. I will just, add up a couple of things over here related to CPAC, because we must be aware that CPAC was previously known as basically it's one of the component of Belt and Road Initiative, which was earlier OBOR, One Belt One Road, and 2000 and around 2015-16. The world view, especially the of
Right.
Europe and United States, was against this, wording of one belt, one road. They were of the opinion that this is an ideology of colonization. So China renamed it as BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, which has 6 routes with it, including this CBAC being one of the routes. And if we look at as we have discussed earlier as well, that United States do not come into full-fledged war within its own corridors. It usually go into others' corridors to start for the wars. Same thing happened. This is the reason that they use a proxy wars. Now, if you look at the China-India land dispute at the location of Ladakh dispute is one of the disputes because of this CPAC. Now, along with this, if you look at the Hong Kong scenario, how US is highlighting this scenario is not. Sometimes it accepts United States, China's policy as one China policy on Hong Kong, whereas at some other point in time, Africa once it shifts from its policy of one China. This is again on at the corridor of BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, because China values more China values free trade more as compared to United States. And if you look at China EU terms, we have seen the buying of Boeing shares by the Chinese companies, and how US has forced EU to block this buying. So this is all about trade. This is all about economic and political hegemony in the world, and the way China is going into the world through its economic side, it is getting the political power. It is really tremendous, and I must say that the current scenario of CPAC is blocked directly or indirectly by China. By United States. The idea is to block the economic well-being of China, which will ultimately be gaining authority of this all Belt and Road Initiative. So, how US handles Middle East, how US handles India, how US handles Europe is directly or indirectly. You can call it the fear that they have with respect to the BRI and its effective implementation.
Right. Thank you very much, Faisal. I think we're good as far as this particular webinar is concerned. Let me just reiterate the fact that this is just the beginning. We're looking forward to have this as a continuation of knowledge production process moving forward across disciplines that we have at Greenwich, including those of business, media sciences, economics and finance, as well as political sciences and humanities. So this is basically a process that we've initiated, and I really appreciate the comments by the panelists for this. Can I move to Dr. Noshin now for your final comments, ma'am?
Thank you, Ali, and I'm sorry for the interruption in the middle.
That's fine, no worries.
I didn't hear comments by Ali on BRI initiative. I was just talking about that in that meeting when Xi Jinping was asked about his priorities in the backdrop of the COVID-19. He listed 10 priorities, and BRI
Right.
was on number 9th. And that does not suggest that BRI is not Chinese priority. Right now,
Mm,
they are focusing on some other things. So you see, to me, BRI will not be rolled back by the United States containment policies or any of the rival deterrence policies, but
mm.
its implementation will be for sure slow, because you
Right.
see the estimated price has increased many times. So that is one case. And CPEC, China is determined to complete the CPEC despite the reservations by United States, and despite the incentives that United States offering to Pakistan for not going for this project. And
Right.
the reason is that CPEC success, basically on CPEC success, BRI success is dependent, because
Mm,
China has chosen Pakistan to lay its first road, because China is its trusted partner. So Pakistan
right.
is its trusted partner. So China will not let it go on the policies of any of the rival partner. Number one. Number two, I think that this has raised opportunities for the conflict resolution process in South Asia, because for the first time United States stakes are high in the South Asian conflict situation. So Pakistan can utilize that. This I've been thinking over a couple of months, that given the August 5th last year's change in Kashmir status, and as Faisal
Mm,
rightly talked about this Ladakh situation linking with the Kashmir issue and this issue of CPEC and the Chinese increasing role in South Asia that India wants to deter, I think
mm.
that there might be some kind of conflict resolution between China and India might be in the interest of United States. So
Right.
you see, this situation is giving new options in the region that we in Pakistan must focus on. That is the case. So I do not think that BRI is going to be rolled back, or CPEC will is going to be affected in the longer run. I think you see change is taking place for sure in the international strategic arena, and the change
Mm,
is that new centers of power and periphery powers are emerging. United
right.
States is trying to deter that role, but will not be able in the longer run. The only
Mm,
possibility is that United States will arrest the uh, pace of that change.
right.
And for that, we see all this proxy wars going on, and there will be more proxy wars in the region. There will be more war of propaganda. There will be more
Mm,
rhetorics on the issues. But undercurrent of all this is that a change is taking place, a power is declining, and the new centers of power are emerging. And every
right.
state needs to analyze what is best for itself.
Sure, thank you very much for
That
pointing out all these aspects. Xi Jinping has been mentioning that it's the Asian century moving forward. So that definitely raises the stakes as far as the Chinese are concerned. So, I mean, despite no love lost between them, there's definitely a potential for de escalation of political tensions between the two. I offer my gratitude to the esteemed panelists for such a stimulating discussion on this particular webinar. Thank you very much for your presence once again. And I'll hand it over to Faisal Ansari for the closure.
Thank you, Ali. This has been one of the lovely sessions, and I'm really grateful and really thankful to Dr. Muhammad Ali and Dr. Nashin Versi for being a part
I'm
of
honored.
this webinar. And we hope that we will continue this in future. And as Ali has mentioned, that this is going to be a continuous feature of our Greenwich University's social sciences and
Screenshot
political science department. So thank you once again, Dr. Muhammad Ali, Dr. Nausheen, and Liza
welcome.
Jalani for such a great
Pleasure.
webinar, and looking forward for the continuous sessions in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.